One quiet afternoon, I was walking through the forest when, out of nowhere, a lion cub literally dropped from the sky. I had no idea where it came from, but when I saw its tiny face, so scared and helpless, I couldn't just walk away. The forest was dangerous, and leaving it there felt wrong. So, without thinking twice, I picked it up and took it home with me. Just as I was about to close the door, a huge white wolf stepped out of the shadows, carrying a small pup in her mouth. She walked right into my house and settled quietly in a corner. At first, I was frozen in fear, but something about her felt familiar. A few weeks ago, I saw this same wolf during one of my walks, but she wasn't aggressive. She just looked at me with sad, pleading eyes. That's when I noticed she was trapped in a rope net. She couldn't move. I remembered my jacket still carried my late grandfather's scent, and somehow, that smell seemed to calm her down. He used to be a wildlife researcher, and I suddenly recalled an old video he'd left me, showing him beside this exact same white wolf. I couldn't ignore her, so I took a small knife and carefully cut through the net. When she was free, she just turned around and walked away, but I was happy. I had given her freedom. I didn't expect to ever see her again. Yet, here she was, in my house, with her pup beside her. For a moment, I didn't know what to do. My quiet home had turned into something like a zoo. I just wanted to practice piano for my exam, but now I had wild animals under my roof. I thought about calling the police, but there was no signal. A few hours later, 2 patrol officers from the Wildlife Protection Agency knocked on my door. They asked if I had seen a lion cub. Apparently, the cub's mother had been shot by hunters, and the baby had been sold to a circus. But on its way there, the plane carrying it crashed. By sheer luck, the cub had fallen into a tree, tumbled into a bird's nest, and then somehow, into my arms. When I heard that the cub was supposed to end up in a circus, my heart broke. I couldn't let that happen. I had already lost my parents when I was young, and my grandfather, my only family, had passed away just days earlier. I knew too well what it felt like to be alone in this world, so I decided to keep the cub with me. When I came home, I saw the white wolf feeding her pup. The lion cub walked right over and lay down next to them, nursing beside the wolf's own baby. I held my breath, afraid the wolf might attack, but she didn't. She accepted the cub as her own. Watching that, my heart melted. From that day on, I decided to care for them both. The 2 babies grew inseparable. They played, tumbled, and explored together all day. The mother wolf came and went every day to feed them, and I filmed every beautiful moment on my phone. They followed me everywhere. When I played piano, they'd sit quietly nearby. When I stopped, they'd nuzzle my hands, begging for attention. Sometimes we'd spend the night in a cabin deep in the woods or swim together in the river. At sunset, we'd sit by the shore. Those were the happiest days of my life. Then came the day of my piano exam. It was my lifelong dream. Before leaving, I told the cubs to behave and promised I'd be back in 2 days. I even left the window open for the white wolf to visit. The exam went perfectly. I had made it. I'd been accepted. But instead of joy, all I felt was sadness, because I knew my dream meant leaving them behind. The little wolf still had its mother, but the lion cub only had me. I started searching for a sanctuary that could take him in safely. But fate had other plans. While I was gone, the white wolf was spotted by conservation officers and captured. They took her away. When I returned home, I found my house a complete mess. The cubs had torn the place apart, searching for food, and their mother was gone. I panicked. I searched everywhere, but she had vanished. It broke my heart, but I knew I couldn't handle this alone anymore. So, with tears in my eyes, I decided to hand the cubs over to the Wildlife Protection Agency. That night, as if they understood what was coming, the 2 babies climbed into my bed and clung to me tightly. I couldn't let them go. The next morning, I made my choice. I quit my dream job and decided to raise them myself. I named the little wolf Mozart and the lion cub Dreamer. Mozart, because he loved music. Dreamer, because he reminded me of my lost dreams. To my surprise, Mozart really did have a talent for music. Sometimes, when I played the piano, he would press the keys gently with his paws, as if joining in. As winter arrived, the forest turned white with snow. The cubs grew bigger and stronger, running through the snow with pure joy. Every night, I cooked them big meals, and my grandfather's friend Joe would help bring food. He worried for my safety and made me check in daily by radio. But as the snow melted, danger crept closer. One spring morning, a woman and her daughter came to pick flowers on the island. Mozart and Dreamer saw them and ran toward them playfully. Afraid something might happen, I ran after them, but I tripped on a rock and hit my head hard. The world went dark. When I woke up later in the hospital, I learned what had happened. Mozart and Dreamer had stayed by my side the entire night. keeping me warm in the freezing cold. If not for them, I wouldn't be alive today. But because my grandfather's friend had called the police for help, both Mozart and Dreamer were taken away. Mozart was sent to a conservation center, where he reunited with his real mother. But Dreamer, he was sent to the circus. When Dreamer saw his old trainer, Alan, he panicked. Alan said the only way to tame a lion was to make it fear you. Then he whipped Dreamer again and again. I couldn't bear it. I begged the police to help, but they wouldn't listen. So, I decided to find him myself. When I met Eli, the conservation center's director, he told me Mozart was safe and happy, but I still had to find Dreamer. Then, one morning, the circus caravan passed near the wolf center. Mozart heard Dreamer's roar. He howled in return. But the caravan didn't stop. That night, Mozart escaped. He dug under the fence and ran all the way to the circus. He found Dreamer's cage and tried to open it with a stick, but it was useless. The noise drew Alan's attention. When Alan opened the cage to investigate, Mozart pounced, knocking him over. The two friends ran for their lives, free at last. They wandered through the forest, stealing food from a supermarket, dodging police, searching for home. When I heard about their escape, Eli and I joined the search too. Mozart still had his tracking collar, so we followed the signal, but Alan found them first. He aimed his rifle at Dreamer. Mozart jumped in front of him and got hit by the tranquilizer. Alan tried to hide what he'd done, but his son, Rafa, secretly helped us. He led us through the woods to where Mozart might be. Then, I had an idea. Mozart and Dreamer loved my piano music, so I played. When the melody echoed through the forest, Dreamer appeared first, eyes wide with recognition. He led me to a small cabin, and there was Mozart. He ran to me, covering me in slobbery kisses. But before we could celebrate, Alan arrived again with his gun. Rafa stepped in front of him, shouting for him to stop. Then the police appeared. I grabbed Mozart and Dreamer and led them through a hidden tunnel in the cabin. We escaped through a hollow tree and reached the lake. Across the lake was my island. If we could just get there, we'd be safe. But as the police closed in, Dreamer turned around. He faced them bravely, giving me and Mozart time to escape. Gunshots echoed through the trees. My heart shattered. I made it to the island with Mozart, but he refused to move. He just stood on the shore, waiting. And then, out of the bushes, Dreamer appeared, alive. He had made it. Mozart ran to him, nuzzling and licking his face in pure joy. I cried harder than I ever had in my life. They were finally free. Now, we live on this island together. The wolf and the lion, two souls who were never meant to meet, became brothers for life. Their love, their loyalty, their courage taught me something profound. Love doesn't care about species. It doesn't care about form. It only cares about the heart.